Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another wonderful segment of the Women in Publishing Summit. I am Alexa Bigworth, your host, and today, this is such a special treat for me, you all. I get to interview someone who has been a long-distance online friend for a long time. She was actually a contributor to my very first book, Sunshine After the Storm, A Survival Guide for the Grieving Mother. So unfortunately, we shared that sad commonality, but she's a very, very successful fiction author right now. And I've gotten to be on the front row watching this journey come about. So let me introduce you to Jennie Goutet. She is an American-born Anglophile who lives with her French husband and their 3 children in a small town outside of Paris, which just makes me so jealous. I can't even stand it. Her imagination resides in Regency, England, where her Regency romances are set. Jennie is also the author of the award-winning memoir, Stars Upside Down, and the modern romances, A Sweetheart in Paris and A Noble Affair. A Christian, a cook, an what is that word? An inveterate klutz.
Inveterate klutz, a professional klutz.
There you go. Thank you. Learning our vocabulary just grew. Jennie writes about faith, food, and life, even the clumsy moments, on her blog, aladyinfrance.com. Now, I want to just, before we get in here, I have to show you guys this book. So her first book, which is now retitled Stars Upside Down, was A Lady in France.
That is right.
I have this book. I've read this book. It's amazing, but you republished it and revised it, and it's probably even more amazing now. We can talk about that if you have time. You have so much to share with us. You can learn about Jennie and her books on her website, Jennie Goutet, and that's Goutet. Everything will be down below.com. That's not part of the URL. JennieGoutet.com. And please do get on her newsletter. Now, I want to tell you, so if you're wondering, this is primarily for fiction authors. However, you can learn so much from Jennie and what she's doing, no matter what genre you are writing. And I want to tell you specifically why I invited her today. So I've been following Jennie since, 7-8 years ago, since we started this, she was blogging already and writing her story. And we connected through one of our writers groups or something. I found out about her story, invited her to be part of the book. But I've continued to watch as her writing goes along, and we're in several groups together on Facebook. And about, 2 or 3 months ago, I saw this amazing post. And obviously when my friends post in these groups, I pay attention, but she showed a screenshot of royalties on KDP for November. And, it was huge. It was over $10,000.
I'm going to tell them about the royalties.
She's going to tell us about it, okay?
Numbers, because people want numbers.
Yes, people want numbers. But listen, it was more than that. What I loved so much about this post is it wasn't Jennie just going into this group and saying, look at what I did. Look at what I did. Haha, I'm successful. It was, here's my journey. Here's what I've done right. Here's what you can do to also get to this point, and don't give up if you're not there yet. And I was like, Jennie, you have to talk about that in our conference. And she said, yes. So welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm honored and thrilled to be here, and thrilled to share what I've learned, because my first book, I pulled out the book because I wanted to pull out my mistakes as well as my successes. And this was published in December of 2013. So that's 6 years ago, just over 6 years ago. And I earned maybe $1,000 a year, if I was lucky, for the last 6 years, until this year, when starting from March, because I didn't really earn anything until March, but starting from March, I earned $62,000, a little more than $62,000 from March to December.
Wow.
And this month I am already at about $4,500 and halfway through the month. So some of my months were as low as 3,000 and others were as high as 10,000 or even more, 11,000, I think, 11,500. And, so it took me a while. I had to figure out the ropes, and I would love to share it with you guys so that you don't have to go through the journey that I went through to get here. And so I thought first I would show you my mistakes and what I did not do right, except for perseverance. That was the one thing I did right, because I persevered, partly because I just liked writing. I liked being an author, and, I liked writing. So I persevered. But so I started with this, as I showed you, and it took about 2 years until I had the courage to redo it. Now, this book was 135,000 words, and memoir should be more about like 75 to 85,000 words. The print is super small. Some of the older readers said they had trouble reading it. It took me about 2 years, but 2 years later, I redid it, and I did another cover, and I did another title. The title is Stars Upside Down, a memoir of travel, grief, and an incandescent God. And I actually removed 50,000 words. I got help. I got editing help to, stick to the essentials. And now it's much more clear what the book is about. So that is one of the things that I will be talking about. Covers are very important. This does not tell you it's a memoir. It does not tell you what the genre is. It doesn't tell you that there's Christian content. You think it's going to be, looking at the title, A Lady in France, you think it's going to be like A Year in Provence. But it's not, because there's a lot of Christian content in there. This, honestly, I've even grown since this, as much as I adore this cover. I probably for a memoir would have had like the face of a child or someone, I probably would have done it differently, but I have not regretted it. And this went on to get like a Publisher's Weekly review. I got a few BookBub deals. It just, it got an audio contract, but it didn't really earn much money. It was more kind of my, my pet project. And I ended up having it translated into French, which has earned me no money. It was a love project because now my French family and friends can read it. So that was my first foray. That was memoir, and it was very related to my blog, which is why it was called A Lady in France. After that, I thought, then I maybe a few months later or a year later or something, I published a children's book that I had since I was teaching in Taiwan. I made this book, but it was, it's cute. But it was, hand drawn and everything. So I needed to get it on a computer and everything like that. So now we've just jumped to genre. We've jumped from memoir to illustrated children's book. Okay. Just, keep that in mind. My next attempt was fiction. This time it was romance, but clean romance. So clean romance means no swearing and no sex or strong innuendo, or strong descriptions even leading up to it. It's very much closed door. So this is the Viscount of Maison Lafitte. And I was very proud of this photo because I had taken it, it's from the actual Chateau of Maison Lafitte and everything like that. But it's all wrong because it doesn't tell the genre. You don't know it's romance. The title is not pronounceable, and so my friends bought it, and, a few other people bought it, but that did not work out. And it took me 2 years until I was ready to see that that was wrong and to redo the cover and title. And I actually redid my novice writing mistakes because I learned a lot of things about how to write, points of view, getting rid of unnecessary words, all this stuff, which probably in the book that we share together, Alexa, there's probably my writing. If I read it now, I'd probably be like, no.
Oh my gosh. If we were to go back and read all of that book, I mean, because it was, but passion project, sharing emotion,
yes.
It's never going to be a New York Times bestseller. So
exactly. So I did get help, again, editing help to make it better, but it's still not my best work plot wise. So I retitled it A Noble Affair. And now it looks like a romance, and you can see Paris. So that's much, much better. Wow. The only thing is that affair is complicated for clean romance. As I learned stuff as I go along, so not perfect. And so that was, I think I published that in 2015, and then I think I redid it maybe a year later, 2 years later, 2017. During that time, I started writing my other love project, which is Regency. Regency is Bridgerton. Clean Regency is Bridgerton minus the sex. And I grew up reading, historical classics and Jane Austen, Dickens, Tolstoy. I'm like a classicist. And so and I discovered Georgette Heyer, who is like the kind of the beginning author for Regency, and I just loved it. And that was actually what prompted me to want to write romance in the first place. It was not something that I considered before. So I started writing that. I finished writing it. It was very complicated. Again, not my best work. It took so many revisions and everything and so much help. Still not my best work, but actually gets pretty decent reviews and everything like that. It still sells really well, surprisingly. But before that, because I ended up getting a traditional publishing deal, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Before that came out, I was able to put out another kind of quick romance that I wrote, contemporary, A Sweetheart in Paris, which was initially called A Friend in Paris. It did not sell at all because friend
nobody wants friends.
Demote romance. Nobody wants friends. They want sweetheart. But even this title, it did not change anything. So this, again, like, this is the years, me going by, making mistakes, doing the wrong titles, wrong covers, because I just didn't really know what I'm doing. But you are going to know what to do, because I'm going to tell you. I finally got accepted for this traditional publishing deal in a small to mid-sized firm. This book came out a year later. So A Regrettable Proposal. And to be honest, I'm not loving the cover, and I'm not loving the sequel either, which is A Faithful Proposal, that came out in February. And they're actually going to redo it for me for the Kindle version, because I have a third one coming out in September with them, and they're going to do one that matches, because this is a series, but they don't match. Right. So that's not a good thing. Right. And so I did that. And before I got my first book out, I quickly wrote a novella called The Christmas Ruse, which is Regency. And I started building my newsletter, which I am going to talk about, hopefully, in a succinct way, because I know I can get all excited about this and, take over. So that came out, and, I put the first book out, started writing the second, and I just realized that I could probably do better with indie publishing in terms of what I was earning. So once I wrote a Regrettable Proposal, I didn't submit it right away. The next one, the sequel, I didn't submit it right away, but I did start writing my own series that was going to be indie published. So I wrote A Fall from Grace, and what happened was, and I think this is what really kind of shot me to fame, not really fame, but to start bringing in the money, is that this came out mid-February. But I'm just now seeing the earnings on this. So this didn't count in my 62,000. And I didn't even count A Regrettable Proposal, because it really was not much earnings to speak of. But this came out in February, and I think Amazon, with The Christmas Ruse, which was my reader magnet, a novella that came out on Amazon, and then this in February came out on Amazon, and then this was ready in March. Now, this is A Fall from Grace. This is the first book that kind of started earning me real regular income, and it has stayed in the top 100 of Regency romance, which I know you think, oh, but that category is quite big. I mean, you can get more than 10,000 on there, but it stayed in the top 100 for about 9 months straight. It was like number one, or in the top 10 for like over a month. And it's just done really well. And I think part of it is the cover. Part of it is the fact that it was like The Christmas Ruse came out in January, A Faithful Proposal in February. This came out in March. No, in April. It was April, I think. I think it was April. Yeah, it was April. So that amount was earned between April and December. Wow. And then the last book that I have put out, although I've got the sequel to A Fall from Grace coming out in March, but the last book I put out at the end of the year, which means 3 books in 1 year, is His Disinclined Bride. This is a totally separate book, and I did this with other authors. It's called a multi-author project, where you write a series. The characters don't necessarily have to relate to each other, but you have a theme. So this is the Seasons of Change. So we each took a month, and we wrote a book that came out in that month, and it took place in that month. So when this came out, mine was the last one in the series, and I had over 1,000 pre-orders on this one. I think just having A Fall from Grace stay in the ranks, having what ended up being 4 books come out in the same year with Amazon, also having the right covers to attract my audience, all of this is what really contributed. Now, my book is coming out in March. I have not promoted it really at all, and I'm at like 325 pre-orders. So we'll, it's coming out in a month and a half. So we'll see how that does. We'll see how this year does. I mean, that's the thing with publishing. You cannot guarantee that you're going to stay on that pedestal. You have to keep writing. So I wanted to give you some specifics that I have.
Before you do, can I ask you a quick question? I'd love to ask just quickly on that promotions, on the pre-orders. You mentioned your email list, which you're going to talk about, but do you think that the majority of those came from your email list or from Amazon followers?
Yeah, great question. Possibly Amazon followers. I think probably there are links in the back of my book.
Oh.
So they finish one book and then they read the next. Perfect. They click on the next. All my links are in the back of my book.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And because I didn't put this on my list while I'm thinking of it, let me tell you that my advice when I first started publishing, I had like thank you to the readers. I had like the next chapters of the next books. I had like all this stuff to weed through. Now I just put thanks for reading. Here's my newsletter link. Here's my Facebook reader group. Here's, the links to my next book, to my other books. And that's it. And that way, if they're not getting overwhelmed with, they don't get lost in the shuffle. They don't start reading a book and then deciding that they don't like it before they buy it. Or this, I found out that this happens a lot. They read it and then they think that they've read it, so they don't buy it. Because they recognize the beginning. They look at the sample, they recognize the beginning. So
interesting. That had never crossed my mind that could be an issue. That's
an issue. And I've heard that more than once. Yes. So happy to pass these tips along. So anyway, going back to, here's my advice. And the very first thing, especially for you fiction writers, is to find your niche and stick with it, because if you'll see, I went from memoir to children's illustrated to contemporary romance to Regency. And it was not until I started writing Regency and having one book after the other that I started earning any money. So you want to find what's hot, what the readers like. And there are a lot of things that are hot. You would have to be really deliberate to write a book so weird that there's no niche. It's like you can find your niche, and then it has to gel with what you love. There was a big thing about billionaire romances. Everybody was writing billionaire romances. I was like, I can never write that. It does not at all tug at my heart. So don't try to write something that you think don't go and write Regency just because, Jennie Goutet did a great job with it. No, write what you love. So that's the first thing I want to say. And then, and just stop me if you've got anything, because I know I'm a gab about. The next thing is that you want to match reader expectations. So that's a lot of the mistakes that I made. One is word count. You want to respect what word count is. And you can look online, word counts for different genres, and look at the range and make sure that your book falls into that range. Like a lot of my early comments about my memoir is too long, could have cut a lot of that stuff out and, gotten to the point. So you want to respect the word count. You want to respect the world building. So Regency is something that I kind of naturally already knew a lot about, but my Regency books, my research books are many. And so I'm really conscious when I write that I'm going to be speaking the dialogue. I'm going to get the right costumes. I know about the events of the day. I know about the places of the day, and everything I do, they have to be plunged into that world. Well, the same thing holds true for a sci-fi set in outer space. You want to write something that you know or that you love enough to keep researching. So, do some good world building and follow the rules of the genre that you write. One example is romance. Romance needs to have a happily ever after, and it needs to be such that if you take out the story of the love interest between the hero and the heroine, the whole story falls apart. Anything else is a story, a fictional novel with a romantic element, and that was kind of A Noble Affair was kind of like more that. It was less of a romance, and I also didn't get them together enough to make it a pure romance, and readers noticed that. Those who were looking for a pure romance were like, she spent more time with her ex than she did with the guy, with the hero. So respect the rules, things like clean romance. What does that mean? No swearing, make sure that it's pure and everything like that. So you need to know the rules in the genre that you're writing and the subgenre as well. Cover. I mean, can I say it again? Like, this is a gorgeous cover. I have a great cover designer, and sorry, she's not taking new clients right now.
It's a beautiful cover.
It's a beautiful cover. And, this one is a different cover designer. It was one of the authors that but this is beautiful. So you want to make sure that your cover is easy to read. I mean, this is upside down, backwards. You can't really read it, but the title should be easy to read. It should be eye-catching when it's a thumbnail size, and it should look just like the bestsellers in your genre. So if you want to get a good cover, go to the top 100 or the top 10 or the top 50 of your genre and look at those covers, and your cover should look exactly like that. So you don't want to just hire any random designer. You want to hire somebody who kind of knows what they're doing, or who will be willing to look and imitate what they see. So that's really important. And same with the blurb. You want to make sure that you get advice so that it's catchy, snappy. You're not giving too much information. No spelling mistakes, obviously. Things like that. I mean, those are just some basics. So that's one of the things that you want to do to match reader expectations. So I am going to talk next about the two, whether you're just starting out or whether you're already on a roll, but I wonder if there's anything that you want to ask about before then.
No, this is fantastic. I'm taking notes along with you.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's talk to the folks who are just starting out. Well, first of all, just remember that all of us just started out, right? I started writing in 2012. Yeah, it took me a year to get it out, but I started writing in 2012, and I put it out, made tons of mistakes along the way, and now I really am happy because I found my niche, I found my readers, I'm writing what I love. It's like, I can't believe this is my life, but you do have to persevere to get there. And so here are some of the tips that I have for you. One is deciding traditional versus indie, okay? Because I know some people really have the heart for traditional publishing, and that is fine. One thing I want to say about that is that if you're going traditional, either go big or go home. Aim for the big publishing houses, because they're the ones that are going to have the marketing and all of that to be able to push you far. If you go for the smaller publishing houses, don't sign an exclusive contract with them. Use them to, like, for instance, with my publishing house, they do have a certain readership so I was able to gain a lot of followers through them, but I didn't earn a lot from them. So we have a good relationship, and I'm happy to keep working with them, but and I'm glad that I went that route, but I would not want to be tied in, so that was all I had, because I would not be earning much at all. So just consider that, but don't be afraid of indie publishing. Or maybe some people feel like, if writing is not about making money, but I suspect if you're watching this video, it is. You could do traditional publishing just to avoid the headache of like doing it all yourself and all like that. But if you want to earn money, you either have to get a big one, or you need to go indie, or you need to start with traditional, but then quickly branch off, So I just wanted to make that point. Also, I would recommend, if you're not already, getting on Facebook, Instagram, starting a newsletter, and TikTok if you are an extrovert. And I think especially if you're, let's say, YA, if you're, I know there's some genre that do well on TikTok. That's a new platform that authors are starting to sell books on them. I'm not an extrovert, actually, even though it looks like I am, but I'm not. I like to be, in my slippers and at home and everything like that. So, so I don't do TikTok.
I am with you. I don't do TikTok either. It scares the bejesus out of me. So I just stay away.
Yes. But if you're an extrovert, and some people are, go for it. Do TikTok. But Facebook, and I'll talk more about that in just a sec. But Instagram is actually a bigger platform for selling books than you might think. You want to have a variety of like personal stuff, and you want your Instagram photos to be eye-catching. Mine are probably a little bit on the dark side, but at least there's Paris, so that kind of balances it out. But you want to make it fun to look at. And oh my gosh, I'm just looking at the time. I'm like, okay, I got to speed this up. Newsletter. Okay, so get on those programs, because when you're ready to start selling books, Instagrammers are great. If you find the ones that read in your niche and review in them, they can really get your book out there. And I send print to some of them and Kindle to others, and print because they love to take the pretty pictures of them. And then on launch day and the weeks after, you start to see my book everywhere. So Instagram is really a good platform for that, but just make sure you built it well. Facebook I use for my Facebook page, which I don't do much with, but it's a place for people to find me. And I've got a reader group, and that I don't even know how many people I have in that now, a couple hundred. But that's a place for readers to have access to me directly, and they love that. Now, going to newsletter. I recommend MailerLite, and I recommend you start one right away. Then try to find a newsletter swap group with authors in your niche so that you can set up newsletter swaps. And in the beginning, you're going to be just featuring them because you won't have anything to share, perhaps, and you're building and everything. But over time, they will be able to share yours, and you can increase your newsletter by joining BookFunnel. And all this information is on the link that I'm going to share with you. I wrote it down because, you can join BookFunnel and Story Origin to build your newsletter by offering this reader magnet that you've written. So they get it free for signing up for your newsletter. So that is awesome. And right now my newsletter is probably around like 2,800 or something. It's not huge, but I can follow the clicks, and people do click over on the things that I share. And you asked a question about where my pre-orders are coming from. I do think a lot of them come from my newsletter, because every time I send out a newsletter, I see people clicking on my audiobooks, on my old books, on my, my pre-order and stuff like that. So newsletters will sell your books. But I write about me and my life and, writing, and I share other people's books. And so it's kind of like a fun newsletter to get from the author that you follow and all of that. So I recommend that. I recommend really engaging with other authors. I know that Clean Romance, especially Clean Historical Romance, is an amazing group. They are very friendly, and I find that the more you are willing to interact, to support them, to be encouraging and everything, the more they're willing to do it back. So, I recommend that, really engaging with them, and, start a website. And so just to kind of close up this little area of just starting out people, I want to say, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to redo what's not working. It's fine. You have to redo a title. You have to revise the whole thing. You have to redo a cover. No big deal. Don't be afraid to recognize that you need to improve your craft. I got a lot of negative reviews, and that's fine. Some of them are so bad. Like, if I could give this negative stars, I would. But they're brutal. They're brutal. I've never hated a book more than this, or, not my type, don't want to be rude.
Wow.
I get them all.
Gosh. Oh my God. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I've had some authors freak out when they get a negative review, like it's the end of the world and end of their life, but you have still become successful even with negative reviews.
Yeah. My reviews are somewhere, my novella it only has about 4 stars out of 5. It's, because it's too short, and it was early on writing and all of that. But most of my reviews are between 4.3, 4.6, they're like in there. And so a few negative reviews just validates that it's not only my friends and family. Plus, I have a couple of hundred reviews for most of my books. For all of my Regency books, I have a couple hundred reviews. So don't be afraid of negative reviews, and just keep carrying on in spite of it, and set your chin to say, hey, I'm going to show you, I'm going to write anyway. So that's what I recommend for that, for the people that are just starting out. Now I want to talk to the people that are already on a roll, and I want to encourage you to plan a publishing schedule, and don't think just because you watch people that churn out book after book after book, don't have the prejudice that they're actually bad writers, and because it's taking you 2 years to put out your first book that you're a good writer. I mean, I'm saying that half jokingly, but actually that's kind of what I was thinking. And the truth is, some people just have story like oozing out of their pores, and I have gone from being able to write a book in about a year to 3 books a year. And it does not mean I do not skimp on quality. I have at least 4 critique partners read it. I have 2 editors, developmental and line. I have 40 ARC readers to catch any small mistakes before the book comes out. So, and that's another thing about newsletters. You can get ARC, which means advanced reader copy. They're not the ones to give you big feedback. They're the ones right before you publish who read your book, say, hey, I just found a typo. You said blue eyes and it's green. And they're the ones to leave a review on launch day, so that when your book launches, you've got 40 reviews, or usually not that many, but on Goodreads and on Amazon. So that's what your ARC readers are for. Another thing I recommend in fiction, as much as you can, is to write series. Series sell. They sell, that's what you want to do. You want to write series. If you want to make money, you write series. And I also want to put a plug in for KU, which is Kindle Unlimited. It's not the same thing as KDP. KDP is just the publishing process of Amazon. KU is when you're exclusive to Amazon and you cannot put your book anywhere else. Now, people have mixed views about that. Some people don't like Amazon. Some people don't want to put all their eggs in one basket. I get that. But my recommendation, especially for books that are selling, like you have series coming, I would say 80% of my income is from KU. So it's not to be despised. So what I would do, if you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, put out a series, put it all in KU, then start another series. And when you've got that other series generating some good income, take the initial series off and put it wide, publish it wide, and start learning how to promote it in all these places. That way you still have income coming in. And just when the old books are kind of starting to lose a little bit of their luster, you can put them wide and gain an entire new audience. But I will say that putting a book wide, like I have, my memoir, my 2 romances, all of this, my French copy, they're all wide, and they earn like, nothing. They really because I don't advertise them on Facebook, and that's what I need to be doing, or BookBub or other places, and I'm not doing that. And because it's, just right now I have all I can handle. But that is a point because we're talking about success. We're talking about earning money. Mm-hmm. And, you don't want to replace love of the craft, love of your genre, love of your book. Give your readers a quality product, and they will thank you for it. They will write back when you send newsletters. They will join your reader group. They will, they're just so awesome. But I've lost my train of thought. I was talking about Kindle Unlimited, and then I talked about craft. But just don't despise the concept of putting everything into Amazon for now if you want to earn money, and then later on you can diversify. So now the last little segment that I wanted to talk about is, now what? Let's say you are all on a roll and everybody's publishing, and they've got their publishing plan, they've got their series. You're, you are improving the quality of your craft. You're getting better at it. You're getting faster, and all sorts of things. How do you keep up the income? Like, how do you really earn a living from doing this? So that's kind of something that I wanted to talk about. I recommend 2 writing groups. I recommend on Facebook, the Writing Gals, and 20 books to 50K. 20 is a number 20 books to 50 is a number 50K. And what they said is, when you have 20 books, you should be earning $50,000 a year. But you can do it faster than that because I earn more than that on, basically just 2 books this year. Like these 2 books earn me, that much.
That's amazing.
So it is crazy. It's totally crazy. Like I said before, look up Bookstagrammers. Instagram is the place to be. So you want that. I recommend Facebook Reader Group, and I recommend also joining with other authors in your genre, perhaps to create a friendly author reader group where, this is what I do with my other Regency author friends. We all post and we all like work together and everything like that. And we all support each other. And, the motto for 50 Books to 20K is a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think that is really something that will help if you're competitive, people see it and they're just not interested, and why you don't have to burn anybody else to make it to the top.
Absolutely. That's our philosophy with this conference too, is that there's room for all of us, and that as we work together, we rise together just like that.
We do, exactly. And and then you tell people, oh, you should check out this person's book, your friend, and it's just it's a really happy place to be, and we can use a little happiness these days, I will say.
Amen.
So I recommend Amazon ads. Now, I know everybody's going to give a collective groan about Amazon ads, and me too. But so I earned 60, but I have to tell you that I spent almost 20,000 in expenses. Okay,
that's very good for people to know, because people don't consider that factor.
Exactly, I spent 20,000 in expenses, and a lot of that was Amazon ads. Now, there are also Facebook ads and BookBub ads. What I would say is put those aside. Do those later, get advice on that later, especially if you're in Kindle Unlimited. What I would do is focus on Amazon ads. There's a guy named Brian Cohen, and it's in 20 Books at 50K, and I put him on my little sheet. He gives free Amazon ad courses. Another thing I recommend is a website called Kindlepreneur.
Yes.
And this guy Dave,
yes, we love Dave.
He created Publisher Rocket. So when you do an Amazon ad, you need about 1,000 keywords for it to be relevant, and he can get you those 1,000 keywords in a minute. You just type in a few things and he generates them for you, and you copy and paste, and it makes your life so easy. But Amazon ads are crucial. Now, on my first book, I did not start doing Amazon ads until May, I think. I didn't start doing it until a month after the book had come out, a month and a half after the book had come out. That's when I started doing it. But that is what kept me from, and I spent maybe about 20, sometimes more, 20% of my revenue on ads. But that is what's keeping me relevant and keeping me in the top, and so I'm going to keep doing Amazon ads. So that's something that I recommend. And I want to just tell you as kind of a closing thing, because I know I've been talking a lot, but I just have this passion to help you guys to really feel like you can do this. This is not it's not rocket science. You have to be a good writer. And so if you feel like, I was not a great writer, and I'm still not somebody who can come up with these amazing stories. I don't ooze story. It's like what they say, getting blood out of a rock. That's what it's like for me to write a book, but I'm just very stubborn. And so I keep doing it. So you want to have a good quality, but there are ways once you publicize, you're going to want to do, let's say, the free Kindle countdown deals or the 99-cent Kindle deals. You don't want to just rely on those Kindle deals. You want to pay for some advertising, even though it's free books and 99-cent books. If you're in KU and you do it right, you will earn your money back. But you have to expect that sometimes, don't spend money you don't have. You have to expect that sometimes you're not going to earn your money. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to earn your money back and all of that. But some of the good websites I recommend are eReader News Today for promotions. BookBub. Now, BookBub is expensive and very, very difficult to get. And I only recommend doing it if you have a series, and this is like, for instance, on your first book, so that you can get read through. Otherwise, you may not earn it back. But, when I got a BookBub deal for my memoir, I had 22,000 free downloads.
Wow.
And that's a lot of people. And I got 50 reviews, and that's what got me a bunch of different things. I got a Prime deal on Amazon. I got an audio contract and everything. So book club can be good. I recommend Robin Reed's Fussy Librarian. And again, all of this I've written down for you on the link. Faithful Reads, Clean and Wholesome Romance for those who are in that genre, and My Book Cave. So those are, some of the ones that I recommend. And the last thing I want to say is, if your heads are not spinning by now, some of the things that I do not recommend, I don't know that it's much of a good return. I would say the Twitter blasts. I don't think that it does much good. Ads on the sidebar of somebody. No, ads of your book on someone's sidebar. Don't spend your money on that. I wouldn't spend your money on blog tours. It's not a bad thing. And actually, the Clean and Wholesome Romance does do blog tours, but because they do a lot of other things with it, it seems to work.
Yeah, it's really hard to match return on investment with blog tours.
Yeah. It just doesn't, you'd think, but no, people are like, oh, that's nice. You like that book. Okay.
Right.
It doesn't really do much. Publishers Weekly, like my memoir got a Publishers Weekly review, which is great for an indie. And they offered to put me in their catalog. And I was a little wiser by then. I was like, okay, what is it going to get me exactly? Nothing. So I didn't pay for it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. And awards. Awards can make you, I had awards for my memoir because I, paid to put it up for awards and everything. I got a few, made me feel good and everything, but it didn't sell books. So if this is all about success and earning money, which is what we want for you guys, then you want to make sure that you're doing the best you can to spending your money the wisest way possible. Amazon ads, you can keep it really cheap. So so I would recommend that. I would recommend the newsletter swaps. Those are free. I would recommend just with friendships, like talking to people and supporting each other and things like that. And especially my last piece of advice is just to keep writing good stuff. That's what my husband said right at the beginning. Just keep writing good stuff. The readers will come, and that's what you need to do. You have to keep writing good stuff. And the more you have out there, the more they're like, oh, I love this author. What else does she have? Oh, there's this and this and this. And they read everything, and I have readers that say that I've read every single book you've ever written, even the ones in a different genre. So, that is everything I have to say, and like just in time.
No, this was perfect. This was such great information. And I think you dropped some really key nuggets that I think people really need to hear. I've worked with so many authors who are so anxious, like they'll just keep pouring into their first book and keep pouring into it and pouring into it. And I keep trying. I'm so glad to hear somebody who has, the proof behind them to say, you just need to keep forging ahead and keep writing and keep getting more stuff out there. That's really crucial for the success.
Especially since, you've seen it with your own eyes, because I showed you, my memoir is like, it's a good book. It's a good memoir. And my two contemporaries, they're good. The second one is better than the first, but I don't put any effort into them. They don't sell. I wrote them. A few people, people do buy them. The real fans buy them. But I am focusing 100% of my time on what sells, which is Regency. And it's fortunate because I happen to like it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would, just for kind of a recap, if you have somebody out there who's we're focusing on the romance writer right here. What would you say if they've written their first book, it's not doing as well as they want them to do, they don't have an email list, and we've given them a ton of things to do, and now they're like, holy crow, where do I start?
Okay. What I would do with this person is I would see, can you get a sequel going for it? What I would do is first of all, you have to question, was it well written or not? Because my first romance was not. It was decent, it was interesting, it was good, but it didn't follow the guidelines of romance. So I had to buy a book. What is a romance? What is reader expectation in romance? And then there's the basic writing things. Like I had to follow all of that. Is the cover good? Is the title good? You can look at those things because those can be quick fixes. Sometimes it's simply a matter of rebranding. If you can do that, do that. But my book, it never really took off despite all of the work that I did. And so now focus on the next one. Focus on the next one and keep fine tuning what you love to write and who your readers are find those readers, connect with them on Instagram, on Facebook, on your newsletter, and like be yourself and everything. And they're waiting for your books to come out. So I would focus on the next one, but do try to see if you can rebrand and fix it and get an editor looking at it and all of that. If it's still not selling, focus on the next one. Let it go.
So the next question, that's great. That's super great. And the question that immediately popped in my head was that we hear over and over, and this is hard work, but it can be easier, I think, is how do you find those readers?
How do you find those readers? Yes, great question. Some of them are going to stumble on your book. Okay. At the beginning, be really willing to do giveaways, free books, Kindle deals, 99-cent deals, free books, advertise them. That's how you find the readers. Then the readers grow because they join your newsletter and they hear from you, they like you, they write back, they're waiting for the next one. But to begin with, when you don't have any readers, I would do even a free promotion, just do a free promotion. And yeah, you're going to get reviews, you're going to get readers, it's not lost money. And then, and pay for it. Yes, you're losing money, but especially it might actually give it back to you if you're in KU. If you're in Kindle Unlimited, you might actually earn back what you're spending on a free book by KU Reads. That does happen. That's how you find the readers. And then you keep them by, connecting with them and writing more and writing what they want. And
if you're doing a good job in building the relationship, they'll share about you with their friends that like the same type of books.
Exactly.
I know I use that example all the time about how my friends, like we all like similar types of books in the fiction genres. So there's a group about 15 of us that every time we finish a book, we tell everybody about it. And it's not even an official book club. It's just my friends from high school that we know we're all going to like the same stuff. So, word of mouth, so powerful.
Word of mouth. Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. Just really taking it slow and really writing what you love and just being excited to share it with the world and being really smart about how you spend your time. Don't beat a dead horse. If the book is not selling, you wrote it. Good job. You wrote it. It's out there and people will still read it, but focus on the ones that are going to bring you some income so that you can have freedom in other areas. That's my advice.
Love it. I could talk to you all day long. It's so much fun catching up with you. And oh my goodness, what wonderful news. My final question. So there's a lot of work to do. It took you at the very beginning, you said it took you 6 years and you're hoping that this information will help people shorten that timeline. I know you cannot possibly tell our audience that if you do all these things, it'll only take you 1 year instead of 6 years. But what's a realistic time frame let's just assume that they're average writers. They can write about a good book a year, maybe 2 books a year. An average timeline to start seeing true success, if you can even possibly look into the future and guess.
If you're patient enough, whoops, I just did something to my hair. If you're patient enough, write 2 books in a series and don't publish the first one right away and do a rapid release where you publish one and then you publish the other one 2 months later. You will earn fast.
Okay, good to know.
So that's one way that you can do it. But, I think, and that is because Amazon sees that you're prolific and it's in the same genre. And if people are attracted to the cover, they'll pick it up and Amazon will say, hey, people like this book. Let me keep showing it. That's why it's working. So it's called a rapid release. You just write 2 books, try to write 2 books, push yourself to write a little bit faster. If you really want to get it out there, push yourself to write a little faster. Get 2 books written, and then when the 2 books are written, publish one, set the other one for 2 or 3 months later, 2 months, let's say, and then have the third one on pre-order, and then bust your butt to write that third one. And then it's going to get you up there, and then you can maybe take a little breather and assess where you want to go from there. But that should skyrocket you to a good income pretty quickly. My first with Fall from Grace, I don't know how much I earned. I don't remember. It was maybe 8,000 in the first month or something. I can't remember. No, the first month it was half a month. It was only like 3,000. But then the next month it was like 9,000. So it was quick. but that was also because I'd had another book come out from a traditional publisher 2 months earlier.
Right.
So that's my advice, and that should move you faster.
That's really great advice. Thank you so much for all of this information. Everyone can go follow her on jenniegoutet.com. We've got a great link to her blog post that has all of this information that she just shared. So make sure you get that.
I want to say, sorry,
yes,
please. You can tag me on the Facebook group. I am part of the Facebook group.
Yes.
Okay. So you can tag me if you have specific questions. No problem.
And hopefully you'll be able to join us. I haven't asked you this yet, but we are going to be having some open office hours with our speakers that want to come in and answer any questions. So hopefully we'll be able to get you in one of those if you're willing to participate in one of those.
I am. So, awesome. I'm here to help.
So check out the schedule of the open office hours when Jennie's going to be available, and you can pop in and ask her questions there too. So
yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I am so happy to see this for you, because I remember early on when I very first met you, how much you wanted to be a writer. You were still blogging your book at the time, but you were just like,
exactly.
So this is exciting. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you. And just go get it, everybody.
Go get it. I love it. All right. Thank you.
Okay.